Hello and welcome to the TSM Fan Hub podcast. This is episode 105 and a half, or 5.5, whatever you want to call it. As you can tell, I'm only joined here by Jeff, Chris, and Brad. We're not able to make it, so we're gonna do a nice short episode, just to get you guys some content, and we'll all be back together to talk about everything next week. We're mostly gonna be focusing on the World's group draws, which happened on Tuesday morning, so we can get right into that. If you want a full list of the rundown of all of those, you can look various places. We're going to focus mostly on TSM's group. So I guess one thing to note would be G2 in Group C kind of got the reverse of our group last year, with the possibility that they could draft C9, the third seed, out
That would be beautiful.
That would be poetic justice. So those of you who don't know, G2 is with Samsung Galaxy and RNG. It would be great if C9 went into that group playing the Splice from last year, the spoiler. And TSM got into Group D, go figure. Every year.
And it's not a group of death.
And it's not a group of death. It is a group of life. So Flash Wolves and Misfits are the two teams in there right now. The only caveat on that is if all of the Pool 1 teams from the play-in stage make it, Team WE, because of the way that the rules are formatted, Team WE would have to seed into TSM's group, which would make that group significantly harder, as they are probably the best team in the play-in stage. Mm-hmm. So aside from that, what are your thoughts on TSM's group?
Well, basically when it comes down to it, I think that even with WE in the group, I think this is a group where we should take first place. So WE have looked very, very strong. While they are the play-in seed from China, they are not weak. That does not make them weak at all. I think RNG and EDG are both very strong teams, and every series that they've all played against each other, these three teams, has been very competitive. So assuming that one team is better than the other off of one best-of-5 result, which I believe went to 5 games, is kind of silly. So I think that while they are the play-in seed, they are quite strong. That being said, I think TSM is stronger.
Yeah, and I think this is a discussion that, as analysts are talking about TSM, I think they're hitting one thing really well, which is TSM doesn't look as strong as they did last year, but they don't look as strong as they did last year because last year we saw TSM that played one single style, and that's all they played. They came to Worlds. Everybody thought they were going to get top 4, maybe even get to the finals, and they flopped and didn't even make it out of groups. This year, although on different team comps, they don't look as strong as they did last year. I think they have the ability to adapt, and they have the ability to play different styles. Therefore, you can't counter them just by being, oh, well, TSM is going to play this way. This is how we play them. They have variety, and I think that is going to change how the group stage looks for them more than anything. And I think this is something that we've seen throughout the entire history of TSM. They've historically been a team that plays around Bjergsen, and right now they're a team that does not have to play around Bjergsen. Mm-hmm. Last year, they still had to play around Bjergsen, and they were also banking on Doublelift and Biofrost coming out ahead in lane, which did not happen at Worlds, and that kind of broke their entire team. Now they're used to playing from behind, although deficits might be greater. They also can get leads with Svenskeren and Hanser playing very, very aggressive. So yes, they're not as good, but I think we're in a better spot. Also, our group is a lot easier this year, which is we don't have to go up against, the best Alistar in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it helps, too, that Biofrost and Hanser now have a lot more experience under their belts. I think a lot of what we saw last year was when bot lane lost lane, a lot of it was due to, I think, indecision from Biofrost. It was him walking a little bit too far forward at times. The only time where it was really Doublelift's fault was into Mata's Alistar, where that is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was insane.
But yeah, I think that this is going to be a much more fortuitous group for TSM.
Right. And I think the biggest thing to note about this group and how it's all working together is is just how lucky we are that Fnatic threw their semifinals match against Misfits. I think having Hans Sama on Misfits is a decent AD carry, and he brought out the Draven and almost was able to turn a game against G2 in the finals, but the team as a whole, the Misfits as a whole, has a lot more issues, and they're a lot more of a easy win team for TSM than Splyce was last year. And I think they look like a third seed Europe team. One thing
I want to comment on is I think that Power of Evil, this isn't the Power of Evil that we saw smashing Bjergsen with like LeBlanc and things like that. I think that the way he's been building champions, while it's unique and it's cool and it kind of makes a little bit of sense in some ways, I think it's super inefficient. I think that it's something that's going to bite them in the butt if they do it. And I think that when he plays well, he's very on, but I think that at the same time, when he plays off, it is bad.
Yeah. One thing you were mentioning earlier was the history that TSM and the Flash Wolves have. Do you want to kind of go into detail with that? Let the fans know kind of what historically that score looks like.
Yeah, sure. So the one that is going to be most recent in people's minds is MSI, where they went 1-2 with them. They went 1-1 in the group stage and then lost the tiebreaker against them. Mm-hmm. And that tiebreaker was kind of stompy from Flash Wolves, but at the same time, I think that it's not going to look like it did. I think that this is a much more aggressive TSM. I think this isn't a TSM that, gets caught out with their leads and things like that. I think they play with their leads much safer and much stronger. So I think that that's going to be a huge benefactor. But before that, another iconic Flash Wolves TSM matchup was at IEM, I believe, Katowice, where
2015, right?
That sounds right, yeah. Because it was GE Tigers, so yeah. And that's the famous one with Bjergsen's solo kill onto Maple, and it was just a pretty sick thing to see. I think that it's going to be closer to this one, where basically Bjergsen's going to outlane Maple. I think that Doublelift and Biofrost are certainly going to outlane Flash Wolves' bottom lane. I think that if there's one person who makes me nervous on Flash Wolves this year, it's Karsa. I think Karsa has been a strong jungler for a very long time, like world-class levels. I think he is very much the reason why they've been able to beat SKT before. Right. And I think that if there's one person who we need to work on shutting down, it's Karsa.
Yeah, and I think even talking about that is, Svenskeren, we've seen, and I'm going to go into more detail about this in our next episode, but his history on TSM is when TSM has solid shot calling and solid communication, and we can figure that out from TSM Legends episodes, from mic check, stuff like that. When they're all on the same page, Svenskeren looks amazing, and when they don't have the most solid shot calling and they have issues throughout, with who's calling early game, are you invading with a lane pushed or not? That's where he seems to falter, and that's what we saw during MSI was a Svenskeren who was faltering because he was invading when he didn't have push lanes. We haven't seen that in a really long time. I mean, maybe week 1 or 2 of the summer split, but I mean, I think long and hard when the last time it was that you saw Svenskeren absolutely trash a game. Now, you would bring up maybe the Zach game in the finals, but I would say that had a lot to do with the pick of Zach into Sejuani.
Yeah. It wasn't like he was getting caught out invading blue buff.
He was getting caught in his own jungle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very much a team. That was very much a team issue, not an individual issue.
Yeah, and so I think that Svenskeren could be the different, and that communications, obviously Doublelift being back on the team and calling those early game rotations and stuff like that, could be a huge boon to TSM as they come in, and could kind of tip that MSI performance back into their favor. That being said, it's going to be really exciting to watch them play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we'll come back next week, guys, with a full episode. We'll be recapping all of the games that have happened in the past 2 weeks. We just wanted to kind of give a shout out to the group draws which happened and get your take on that, so that there's something for you guys from us. We didn't fall off the face of the planet this week.
Yep, still here.
Still here, still going. So come back for episode 6, or maybe we'll call it 7. I'm not sure how we're going to do the numbering. It'll be fun. Thanks for tuning in to this short one, and we'll see you guys next week.